in Take-Two's case, really all that matters is GTA 6. And the big question is what is going to happen with GTA 6 sales numbers and what do pre-orders look like? Because Take-Two opened up pre-orders for the game on June 25th. And so we now have a month and a half worth of data on that. We heard some numbers. Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick called GTA 6 pre-order, or sorry, we didn't hear numbers, but we heard some words. Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick called GTA 6 pre-orders, quote unquote, unprecedented and astonishing and exceptional. And he pretty much did everything except for say the numbers. I spoke to him this morning and I asked him why he didn't say the numbers, which I will share in a little bit. But first, I actually want to share something that I think is really interesting when it comes to Take-Two's data. I'm going to pull up a screen here. Let's see. Okay, so this is interesting. This is not 100% related to GTA, but it's still really interesting and I think shows you where companies like Take-Two have gone and what the future looks like for these game publishers. So you might remember a few weeks ago, I did a video about why these game companies are always on the hunt for quote unquote live service games that can be monetized indefinitely and generate recurring revenue for the companies behind them. Take-Two is no exception. They have GTA Online and they have NBA 2K, which are their two biggest live service games in the console space. And then they also own Zynga, which is the maker of a whole bunch of mobile games that are just kind of always generating recurring revenue. Like Toon Blast is their big one these days. So I want to share one figure that I think is interesting. So in fiscal year 2026, their last fiscal year, they generated $6.7 billion in total revenue. Of that number, $5.2 billion was recurrent customer spending and $1.4 billion.
So that's GTA Online, NBA 2K Online, and probably the mobile games in general.
Was full game and other sales. In other words, about 22% of their revenue coming in for the most recent fiscal year was from actually selling games, selling copies of their video games.
Sure. So again, that's why the CNBC interview seemed so limited and narrow, because they were purely talking basically about the next quarter. They were not talking about the larger company. It is interesting, actually. It's the fact that they didn't ask at all about online service revenue whatsoever, when that is legitimately where Rockstar is headed. That's legitimately where Take-Two is headed.
The other 78%, $5.2 billion, is coming from people spending money within their games, not to buy their games, but spending money on microtransactions in 2K and GTA and the mobile games. So very different business model than the way the video game industry looked 10, 15 years ago when you just made a game, you put it in a box, and then you sold it. So just a fun little fact. And it's interesting to know that right now, Take-Two is only talking about GTA 6 in terms of the single player portion, which will not presumably have recurring revenue. I don't think they're putting microtransactions in the single player game, and not GTA Online. They have not talked at all, and they are not planning to talk anytime soon about what the new GTA Online will look like and what that recurring spend will look like, which reportedly, according to some leaked numbers, the current version of GTA Online, the one that is associated with Grand Theft Auto 5, brings in about $500 million per year. $500 million per year, 13 years after it launched, which is just an unfathomable amount of money. So this next one, all bets are off. But right now we're just talking about the single player game. So
again,
okay,
what he's saying about the $500 million a year, think about what that will be with GTA 6. And then think about, and it'll be really interesting, and I'll be excited to talk about it when we can, because right now it hasn't happened yet. But I want to look at and show off just how, and I'm going to put the prediction here so that I can go ahead in 2 years, or in 2 years from now, I can look back on this and put the clip together. The amount that they make from the pre-orders is going to be literally damn near nothing in comparison with the next decade. And when I say damn near nothing, I don't mean it's going to make very little. It's that they've made billions. So what I'm talking about is the number of billions is going to be much smaller for their pre-order, because it's the one sale. It's like, what, $100, which is nothing in compared to LTV, which is the lifetime value for a lot of players.
You know, pre-orders went up. We know that they're unprecedented. So I talked to Strauss Zelnick this morning, like I mentioned, CEO of Take-Two. I said to him, hey, okay, well, you're not going to tell us the numbers, but will you tell us, did they beat your internal forecasts? He said they're much higher than their internal forecast. They vastly beat them. So I said to him, well, why can't you just share the numbers? And he said something interesting, which is he said that, like, I'm going to read a quote from him, which is, quote, and this is all in a Bloomberg story that you can read. I'll put that in the show notes. He said, quote, we can't tell whether they mean anything. It could be a situation where it's just demand pulled forward because of enthusiasm, but no real change in the actual number. He said, we never want to mislead people. We've said they're exceptional. They're really great. But at the same time, I've reminded people that we simply don't know the demand curve because it's just never happened before. And he went on to say that the raw numbers could be misleading. I asked him to clarify that a little bit because I wasn't 100% following what he was saying. And he essentially said that the point that he's making is that this demand for pre-orders might not reflect that sales are going to be some exponentially higher number than they expected, but it might just reflect that demand is being pulled forward. In other words, the people who would have bought the game on day one or after launch are just pre-ordering it instead of buying it then. So if they expected to sell, I don't know, 30 million copies on that first week, and they have however many pre-orders now, this is me making up a number for the sake of example, but let's say they have 10 million pre-orders now, and they expected 30 million. So that could mean a number of things. It could mean that their expectations were way too low and they're actually going to sell 100 million on day one. Or it could mean that that 10 million is just part of that 30 million that they had forecast, and that like the demand was just kind of like,
to a certain degree as well, I would call it trust building. I would say that what Take-Two have done a pretty good job of is not making themselves seem like a hype stock, right? And part of the reason why they've made it seem like that is because they're genuinely not a hype stock. They are a product-based stock. Is what Strauss really saying really making sense, or he does not want to tell the real numbers? I think one of the reasons why I say this, I'm going to pull up and show you what their current advertising actually looks like internally, because it's public data. This is currently where they are with ads. So let's start out with the meta ads library. And I follow this, I watch this every day to see if they're changing anything, if anything is important. And not a single ad, we'll see, maybe I haven't actually checked today, so maybe I might be caught out here, but not a single ad has been about GTA 6. All of it, if we have a look, just in different languages, both here, I don't know which language this actually is, might be like Italian or Spanish potentially. This one might be like Japanese, but either way, the point is that yes, you have regional advertising, but you don't have any GTA 6 advertising. And my genuine, honest feeling about that is because they don't need to. And there's no point in basically burning money if they've already hit what they were hoping to hit. Now, what they did do was back in June, like the week of pre-orders starting, they did put out advertising. And for that, they were putting out advertising for the premium edition, I believe, where they were literally putting up carousels. So this was over a month ago, well over a month ago. This was the pre-order week. And here we can see that this was one of their regional adverts. This looks like German to me, I believe. I'm not sure if we'll be able to see how many it reached on this one. Let's see, yeah, so 18 to 54. And yeah, the reach was minuscule. You can see here, reach 2, 51, etc. So none of that even hit like hundreds of thousands, right? They did put a larger amount on UK, I've noticed. But really interestingly, I want to say larger amount, I'm talking like 1 million, which is a fair amount when it comes to advertising to European countries because it costs more. But at the same time, there wasn't any US advertising. And I'm going to, again, check on here for Rockstar Games one. I'm pretty sure they have been doing some GTA 6 advertising on here, but still not very much. Let's take it to worldwide just so that we're absolutely certain. So this is all GTA Online right now still. So yeah, they're set. Basically, the only time to put marketing into something is when you want sales that aren't going to come unless you put marketing in, right? Especially as a public company. So the likelihood is that they really have crushed it. And does it surprise any of us? Does it surprise any of us that when GTA 6 launched, that the pre-orders would be out of this world? It doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I do understand why they would put in some paid advertising at the very start, but my sense is they watched the pre-orders soar and they thought, why bother? Why bother wasting that money when realistically the same budget can go into the game after it's launched for actual sales around things like GTA Plus, for example, which I have made videos about, when they're actually putting out things like heists and so on, which they've quite literally done here. Like, we're not even talking about something that I'm just speculating about. We're talking about what we can see in front of us. It's already here. GTA Online adverts that were for GTA 5, obviously the GTA 5 version, they're putting it on only for things that may not otherwise get the sale. I also don't even know necessarily if they're going to put massive amounts of marketing into the first heists or the first GTA Online push. They might do, they probably will for like a week, but my sense is it really depends on what the organic, which is the interest that happens without them having to put any paid media in. Paid media is quite literally this stuff. It's the advertising that they pay to both Google and to Meta, essentially. So I don't believe that they're fudging the numbers. I don't believe that they're saying something that isn't true. I think that they are, frankly, to a certain degree, if I'm completely honest, flexing. I think to a certain degree, they may be flexing. And I think also they are kind of building investor relations by doing this, because if all you've experienced when you're investing in the stock is up, or at least like better than you were told by the company, that's a really good experience.
Ahead of time, because there's so much demand that people just, a lot more people pre-ordered than expected, and they would have bought the game on day one anyway, which I thought was interesting. And I thought that was actually a kind of a good reason for not sharing the raw numbers. I suppose he doesn't want to send investors into a frothy hype before the numbers are actually revealed, because then if
I literally just said it. I called it. Jason and I agree.
their expectations are too high, then remember what I said earlier about like Wall Street being all about expectations versus results. If their expectations are too high for your launch day, then even a crazy number of sales, if it doesn't hit those expectations, could be bad news for Take-Two stock. And Take-Two pricing right now, if you look at the stock price, right now it has baked into it a certain number of sales. There's a certain threshold, a certain bar that investors are expecting GTA 6 to hit. The question is whether it will surpass that bar, meet that bar, or be lower than that bar. That's the big question that everybody is asking, and that everybody's going to look at when November 19th comes around, and more importantly, from an investor point of view and a sales point of view, if and when they reveal the sales figures, what those numbers actually. One other topic I talked about with Strauss, I asked him a few questions. Most of them he didn't answer. I asked him some kind of things I didn't exactly expect to get straight answers out of him on, such as, hey, are you interested in buying anything from EA now that EA has gone private and might be going on a fire sale to cut costs? Because of course, if you don't know, EA was taken private by Saudi Arabia and some other investors in this $55 billion deal that closed this week. And EA has said, according to my colleagues at Bloomberg a few months ago, EA has told debt investors that it plans to cut $700 million per year out of its costs, which will likely mean, could mean a number of things. There could be a number of ways for that to happen. Will almost certainly mean big layoffs. And the question I asked Strauss was, are you interested in potentially buying any of EA studios or IPs? Have you had any conversations with them? And of course he said no, he's not going to talk about that sort of thing. Asked him a few other things he want to talk about.
I was going to say, this is like the last time. This is not the time that he's going to be starting EA headlines about M&As and acquiring IPs and all that. This is not the time. This is only GTA time.
About a little bit is the other kind of big beat for GTA that is coming in the near future, which is the announcement that Grand Theft Auto 6's next trailer, the big quote-unquote extended look, which will likely be kind of a meaty look at the game's actual gameplay, going to be on Netflix August 27th. Why did that happen? How did that happen? Zelnick wouldn't answer a lot of questions about this. He wouldn't talk about how the deal came together. He wouldn't talk about financial terms. I asked him, did Netflix pay you guys for this? How much did they pay you for this? He said, we're not disclosing terms. He said, quote-unquote, we're thrilled to be in business with Netflix. We've had numerous partnerships with Netflix. They're great partners. Netflix, actually, if you don't know, Netflix has their own games section. That's a story for another day, is Netflix's various attempts to get into games and what has or hasn't worked. But they have a game section. On it, they have the first 3 Grand Theft Auto games.
So my guess when it comes to the Netflix agreement in terms of the terms, which obviously these things can be different from company to company, game to game, and industry to industry. My sense would be, in other games it would be different. I would say that they probably paid. In this one, it's hard to believe, frankly, that Rockstar would pay Netflix for this. Really hard to believe. Really, really difficult to believe. The reason being is that they don't need to. This absolutely can, I'm guessing, live on YouTube or on Rockstar's general social. For them to get a 6-hour exclusive suggests also, because Strauss has made clear that he suggests that you get Netflix for the best experience, they're driving up Netflix subscriptions. Straight up. I don't have Netflix. I'm going to have Netflix for this 6 hours because I make content around GTA 6. A lot of people will probably pay for the extra, basically for Netflix, it's a beautiful funnel. Beautiful funnel. If Rockstar's going to give them their IP to just like wave a flag around, we got your IP, we're going to use it, etc., it's just a win for Netflix. It gets people to buy Netflix. It then hopefully gets them, for Netflix's sake, for people to forget they even bought the subscription. Yes, then people will go with like a free trial, etc. But that's the whole point, right? To even get a trial, you have to input your payment details. There is no way, I don't believe, very unlikely, that Rockstar paid Netflix a penny for this. It would only go the other way. And I'm not even sure that it has gone the other way. I don't even know if it was a monetary deal, to be honest with you. But if it was to be a monetary deal, it would be Netflix paying for the IP that Rockstar has, because it is a beautiful user acquisition tool, amazing at a user acquisition tool. And yes, Rockstar does benefit from it. Rockstar benefits from the premium sense of it being on Netflix, not just a YouTube video, which YouTube video would have worked perfectly, but the Netflix thing is like, it's also frankly reminding everyone. It's a whole marketing thing. It's a massive reminder to people who aren't necessarily being targeted by Facebook ads, which they've been putting up, YouTube ads, etc. For people who primarily go to work 9 to 5, come back home, and they're watching Netflix, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, whatever. it's like the prime way to get in front of their eyes, because ironically at the moment, frankly, we haven't even seen any billboard marketing. So even the people out in public who are living a normal life away from social media like Instagram, Facebook, etc., this is just more exposure to this new world of GTA 6 to those people as well. Now that is the one time where it's worth trying to be there as well.
And Red Dead Redemption, you can play all of those on a television with that supports Netflix games and that allows for it, or you can play it on, you put Netflix on your computer, you can play those games. So they already had a deal with Rockstar, they already had a relationship with Rockstar and Take-Two, which I think is interesting. I could only speculate as to how this deal came together. I don't want to speculate about who paid who and what that term looks like, because I really don't know. I do have some thoughts on why this might have happened, but first I want to share a couple more things from Strauss Zelnick, which is, I asked him, I said, okay, look, is there, I know you don't want to talk about the terms, but like, is there a benefit to Take-Two and Rockstar to being on Netflix beyond whatever financial terms you guys are getting? Like, is there an audience you're reaching there that might not otherwise be looking at gameplay of GTA 6? And he said, I do think there's a reasoning behind this. I think when the title is launched on Netflix, if you watch it, you'll understand more. And I said, what does that mean? Like, it'll feel like you're watching a Netflix show? And he said, yes, which I thought was interesting.
That is exactly. It's the premium feel of Netflix. It's the premium feel of being, frankly, on a platform that people are paying for. That's also safe as well, because they're not going on a shady website just to show that you can have to pay for it. Like, it's Netflix. It's the most premium one of all of them.
Going to be a must-see event, and Netflix has 200 million subscribers, so undoubtedly thrilled about the number of people who could potentially be watching this thing. I think there are a few reasons this makes sense. First and foremost, I mean, look, if Netflix is writing a huge check to Take-Two and Rockstar for this, then it's only upside for them. 6 hours is not a lot of time in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't really hurt anybody to have a gameplay footage available on Netflix 6 hours in advance. You could, I mean, this is all marketing, right? It's not like we're talking about a video game being made only available to some subset of players. I think that anyone who complains that it is like consumer unfriendly or hostile or whatever, like bad practice, anti-consumer, to have a piece of marketing footage available on Netflix for 6 hours before it's on YouTube, I think pick your battles, man, if you're complaining about that one. So there's really very little downside to this. And it seems like there's a lot of upside for both of them. For one, it does feel like an event. It's going to be a whole thing. People are going to be saying, well, all right, it's 3 p.m. now, time to turn on Netflix. In the same way you might say, oh, the Super Bowl's on, let's all put it on NBC or wherever it is that year. It'll feel like watching a live event. It'll be one of those kind of rare experiences, I think, where it feels, where there's kind of a lot of people talk about the lack of,
even as much as, I mean, these are just extra things on top of it that I'm sure that Take-Two and Rockstar have already worked out. You know, when you see the trailer appear on your phone, when you're scrolling at Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, similarly, if you're on your computer or on your tablet, it tends to be a more individual experience. Not all the time. Like, yeah, you can be doing it with your partner. You can be having it with your family. Of course, YouTube TV really exists, and I'm not taking that away, because it does. It massively does. But again, Netflix tends to often be a sit down in the living room experience. Not all the time. Absolutely, people watch it on their phones. Massive mobile audience, massive mobile market. But it does have that sort of sit down in the living room and watch. And especially if it's not just a 5-minute trailer, which I doubt they would do this all for a 5-minute trailer. I'm guessing it's going to be anywhere between like 15 to 40 minutes, maybe 40 minutes on the extended part and 40 minutes mainly if they do behind the scenes content as well. But that would make sense for a sit down with the family or whatever it may be. I mean, some people are literally going to make an event out of this where they're going to probably have their friends come over or crack open a beer and see GTA 6 for the first time.
Of monoculture in the kind of world of entertainment these days, and how there aren't really big shows or movies that often, other than like Odyssey, where it feels like everybody's watching them and talking about them, and there's some big cultural conversation around them. I think in this case, having everybody tune into Netflix for this one big event could help create that in a way that would feel a lot more fragmented if it was just released one morning, the way that Rockstar typically does it, where it was just like, oh, here's a trailer, it's on YouTube, it's on X, it's on whatever. I think
I haven't watched this interview or this video, but the way, okay, yeah, great minds think alike, Jason.
The fact that it's kind of like a Netflix event makes it feel a little bit more just kind of unifying in terms of the culture. I don't know, I could be wrong, but I'm very curious to see what the conversations look like that day, because it'll feel, at least on social media, I'll be checking my Blue Sky account because I'll be very curious to see how people are reacting, or Reddit or whatever, when they're all just kind of watching the same thing at the same time. I think that'll be really interesting. And I do actually think that, again, whatever potential financial terms they're getting out of this aside, I actually do think that they're able to reach, by going through Netflix, some people who might not otherwise be online enough to be tuning in to Rockstar's YouTube channels and checking out the new trailer at all hours of the day. I think there are people out there, and don't get me wrong, I mean, look, GTA 6, it's broken YouTube records with the trailers. It's already reached massive audiences. Everybody knows about it. Everybody knows that it's coming. But I think there is a potential audience of people who like maybe have heard of GTA 6, maybe know that it's coming, but like wouldn't think to watch gameplay of it, and certainly wouldn't think to buy it on the day it comes out, who just, if they happen to be turning
because
into
the thing is, in order to be I mean, you have to be recommended it, right? In order, like, this is no doubt going to be on the homepage for Netflix. You have to be recommended it. Now, if you're not a gamer by nature, if you're not playing and watching specifically video game content already, don't get me wrong, the trailer will absolutely, regardless of that, penetrate through to quite a large subsection of people who don't even watch gaming content. But it's nowhere near as guaranteed as Netflix, where, genuinely speaking, the majority of Netflix viewers, people who subscribe to it, aren't necessarily gamers. They're people who want to watch they're people who are consuming a different type of medium, right? They're consuming scripted, oftentimes, content, basically. When you're watching YouTube, you can watch scripted content, but a big part of the beauty of YouTube is the UGC, the user-generated content. It's watching amateur, or, you know, half pro, half amateur, because at this point I would struggle to call a lot of full-time YouTubers amateur anymore.
Netflix that day after work, if they see this thing and they're like, oh, that's interesting, I should check this out, they might have visibility into it that they wouldn't have otherwise. The same way that everybody is just killing for the kind of organic viral media that you get if you have an Instagram short that goes viral and pops up into everybody's feed. I think this can have that same sort of effect. And I do think there are people out there who, like, again, might know that GTA 6 exists, but aren't necessarily buying it on day one, haven't really thought about it, aren't counting down the days the way that a huge subset of people are. And I think this can reach those people, or at least just kind of feel it could lead to a lot of parents calling up their kids and being like, hey, have you heard of this Grand Theft Auto thing? For Netflix, obviously, usually consequential for them to be the people, and they will certainly see a lot of buzz come out of that. I don't think it's necessarily going to lead to some huge surge in subscriptions for them.